once before or twice before I had the opportunity, some offers had come for me to play Jinnah, but unfortunately for some reason it couldn't happen.
I have long had a fascination with my brother, Jinnah, since 2017. Since 2017, when I read a book called Mr. and Mrs. Jinnah and I wanted to make it into a show, that was a love story about him and his wife.
An opportunity to play Sarojini, and as we spoke about her, this is one of the things I said, "Arey, ye to main hu."
Hi, you're watching OTTplay. This is Nirali in conversation with the star cast of Freedom at Midnight, welcoming Arif sir, Malishka and Ira for our exclusive conversation on OTTplay. Firstly, I would like to mention that all the 3 drops of Freedom at Midnight have come out really well. But I would like to know what have been the feedback from the people that you guys have personally received.
So I'll start. The feedback has been very good, and the drops are very intense, very dramatic. It tries to encapsulate the spirit of the book and the show, and all the characters have come out looking very good, and brief journeys of each character has been also displayed very well. So I'm hoping once it starts streaming, all that falls into place and people just appreciate it for what it stands for.
Definitely. Malishka, what has been the response for you?
Oh, tremendous, because not only have I figured it out from social media, but also I've asked people on the radio. So I've got like feedback from there as well, that everything and everyone's looking so fabulous. It looks so close to the times that we're talking about, and everyone seems to be quite excited to watch it, because like I was saying earlier, that people are very confused these days कि क्या देखें क्या ना देखें. Current cinema या कुछ ऐसे, there's a confusion about where we stand. This is a part of history that anyway everybody should and needs to know.
They definitely need to know.
Yes. So I think this is a fab, in my opinion, it's going to be a fab watch.
Yeah. Ira, what has been the general feedback for you?
General feedback has been that it's looking phenomenal.
Yeah.
That it's truly like transporting a viewer to that time. I think that's the first thing anyway in a visual medium like film and television that stands out. It has to feel and look real and authentic. And everybody across the board, young, old, my biggest critics, very tough sort of critics in my life, friends, family, they've been like, it looks incredible.
Yeah.
So I think that in itself is a big first plus and salute to Nikhil and the whole team, that overall, and it's like we've said before, that in a period show it's in the details.
Yes.
The details is where it's at. Nikhil himself has said this several times. So it's not only in the visual landscape and the production design and the costumes and the music and the way it looks and feels and sounds, it's also in the casting, it's also in the writing.
Yes.
It's also in the performances. So it's the details is everything.
It's very minutely crafted.
Yes, and I think that shows.
Yeah, of course that shows. Yeah, and I also have watched the first 2 episodes, and I was really intrigued by it.
What do you think?
I'm really intrigued already, and I can't wait to watch more episodes once they drop on November 15th.
That's
but
cool.
Arif sir, I want to take you back to the time when the script of Freedom at Midnight was narrated to you. What was your first reaction, and when you got to know that you are going to play the character of Muhammad Ali Jinnah?
Once before or twice before I had the opportunity, some offers had come for me to play Jinnah, but unfortunately for some reason it couldn't happen. So I think it was somewhere destined in a way. So when I got the first call saying that, considering me for Jinnah and so on and so forth, come and meet Nikhil, I thought, and then they said they're making the book.
Yeah.
So then I was very excited, because the book is very huge and vast, and as I said earlier, I've read the book as a child. And when I went there, I remember he made me read a scene with the actor, I don't know, some other actor was playing Nehru. So he said, just read this. So I sat and read in his office a scene between Jinnah and Nehru, the conflict scene, which is there in the second, or I don't know which episode it comes out. And then when I read through I sat there and read the whole script. For 1 hour I was sitting there and read the whole script. And then I was fascinated that the 4 pillars on which the show is based, it's actually a lot of pillars the show is based on. Each story or each character's journey was very well etched in the first draft. What we shot perhaps was a filtered down version of the original draft. But the kind of painstaking effort they'd gone in recreating passages of the book is mind-blowing, because they must have actually drawn blood from their brain to condense the book into the script, because the book is still much huge and vast, much beyond the script what we've written, because we are confined to time and confined to a space and a timeline. So I thought it was hats off the way they had intelligently crafted at that stage, this is about 1.5 or 2 years ago, before the shoot began. So I was hooked and intrigued, and then he also elaborated the process, you know, the weight loss. They put me through a dietitian to lose a little weight because Jinnah was frail and he was dying pretty much the last 2-3 years of his life, which is 46, 47, 48. A dialect coach for those, you know, Urdu ke liye, English ke liye. Then reading sessions happening. So then I knew that somebody a production which is spending so much energy on these processes, the result has to be good. See, nothing happens spontaneously. It's not magic combustion. You have to work at it. You have to create the whole environment and atmosphere in bringing out magic to the people. So when I first went and I first saw this whole process, in the first 2 days, I knew that somewhere we are on a good wicket.
You all were on the right path because it was the combined team effort that was being put into making this show.
Yes, but I mean, I went through so many prosthetic makeups, what to do, what not to do with different makeup designers, how old should I look, or I also look young in some parts of the show. So whether, how am I to look young, how am I to look old, how we to juxtapose that and make it effective. So all that went through so much of detailing, and when you know through experience, you know, I've been in the business for a long time, that somebody who invests so much time in pre-production doing that, it has to come out it has to come out looking good.
Completely agree. But Malishka, what went into the prep of, you know, working on the character of Sarojini Naidu? What was your first thought when you got to know that you are being given an opportunity to play a character, a figure who holds a very important prominence in our history?
You know, there's a line in the book where at some point I say, I'm not going to give you the whole of it, but I'm saying कि जैसे ही मौका मिला, जिन्ना ने दोनों हाथों से लपक लिया. That was what I did for my character. मैंने दोनों हाथों से लपक लिया.
थोड़ा elaborate करो.
जी. So here's what happened. I got called by Kamish's casting agency, and I was told Nikhil Advani is making it. MA Entertainment is doing this. I was like he said, already on board that this is going to be something fabulous because you know their past work. But then I was told it's the character of Sarojini Naidu. They sent us a really long voice note. I don't know whether that's a long voice note about who she is and what her character is. And I remember उसको मैं घोट के पी गई because मुझे कुछ दिनों में audition के लिए जाना था. माँ की साड़ी, I've checked out all the things, and like I had said earlier, मैंने उनको fancy dress में बचपन में play किया हुआ था. So I know that hair. I was like, Mom, no, I need its exact hair and all of this. And around Navratri, I went for the audition. But pre-audition, I was told they want a little bit of a Bengali, you know, little bit of an accent in that. So I said, कोई बात नहीं, मुझे नहीं आती है. आप मुझे वक्त दो. 4 हफ्ते हैं तो 2, 3 हफ्ते हैं, 1 हफ्ता मैं सीख जाऊंगी. तो मैं जानती थी कि passion तो वैसे भी उमड़ ही रहा था. That I really wanted to do this. Cut to, but I was told how much hard work would be involved. One is, of course, to get into the character. Now, you've perhaps seen Gandhiji, Nehru, Sardar also being played, but some of these characters, I don't think we've seen too much of either Jinnah, Fatima, or Sarojini for sure. So there was a chance to craft her on the basis of all that I've read, all that I've been told by, you know, by Nikhil, and the fact that there would be prosthetics. So the most important thing they told us is that you don't understand what it is, and it was true. The hard work that has gone in through every cast member, crew member to create and craft these. One is our internal work, right, to figure out who these characters are and how you're going to play them on screen. But the sheer hard work of the people putting it together, we've all gone through rounds and rounds of prosthetics. The prosthetics on an average for me took 3.5 hours in a chair. So if say call time was 11, you got into a chair at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning and went on. I don't know how long you know, you took to get ready.
Looking young must have taken very long.
Not much. They casted me because I just...
You look... I'm joking.
So one was an internal prep work and one was an external prep work, and all of it put together, coming together, is what makes Freedom at Midnight what it is, which you will see on the 15th. But for me, it was eventually going back to everything from history textbooks to just going through Freedom at Midnight, which I had read a lot earlier in my life, to speaking to my director, like he said, diction coach, dialect coach. I remember one of the things being said, you know, she was a particular way she would walk. So, आप ना घर पे ऐसे चला करें. I was actually told कि आप साड़ी पहन के ना just walk around, getting into that system, because it's not easy.
Easy, of course.
ये साड़ियाँ जो हमने इनमें पहनी हैं, शायद ही कभी हमने पहन. Now I can run in a sari. You know, I can. So the character has given us I think, or given me as much as I have given the character, which is about 9 months of our lives, but amazing, amazing fruitfulness that you will see at the end of it. At least that's what I hope for.
And I hope the audience reception would be so satisfying that you all would be like, हमारी जो मेहनत थी वो रंग लाई.
Ameen summa ameen.
Yeah. But Ira, what was the one thing or the one aspect that fascinated you towards taking Fatima's role in Freedom at Midnight?
I have long had a fascination with my brother, Jinnah. Since 2017. Since 2017, when I read a book called Mr. and Mrs. Jinnah and I wanted to make it into a show, that was a love story about him and his wife. But I was very, very taken up with this man. I still am. I'm fascinated by him. I'm always interested in the underdogs, the villains, those who are vilified, those who are misunderstood, in history especially, because history is told from very specific narratives, perspectives, lenses, and it's never black and white. So for me, Jinnah was always a very interesting character, an interesting figure. And I had in fact met Nikhil only in 2017 regarding the other project.
Yeah.
And then when he called me back in 2022 to play his sister, I just felt it was meant to be at some level. It was a no-brainer for me. So that was the first thing. Second thing was that a story about partition is too luring. I mean, every Indian is fascinated, intrigued, curious, connected to that period in our history. I mean, we all have stories about that time from our own families, I'm sure. So it's like, why would you not want to be a part of a story that is about that time, such a significant time of our history, where not only were we freeing ourselves from hundreds of years of British rule, but we were also unfortunately doing it at a very large cost. Large cost. There was so much hurt and pain and violence and so many things involved. And then to have it based on this book, which of course is a best-selling book, and having the perspective of all the main players behind closed doors. What were those conversations? You always think, no? Who was Hitler talking to? Who was XYZ talking to behind closed doors? What led to those decisions?
There's curiosity.
There's curiosity,
massive
massive curiosity for me and for the audience, both. And I think the final thing was that I have a pet peeve that women generally, in our storytelling narratives, of course it's changed in the last 10-15 years. Now it's become very woke and trendy to tell female stories. But in general, in history, we've often been sidelined.
Yes.
Our contribution, our role, our beliefs, our intelligence, our passion, our political ideals, everything has been sidelined. So Fatima for me has been a very intriguing character in that sense as well. And in this period of time, of course in those 2 years, you meet them all in a very specific time in their lives, you see. So for her, her relationship with her brother, who was going through what he was at this very, very crucial time in his life, and an equal burning desire for Pakistan. That's who she was during this time, in this story. And I think that for me was delicious to get into the skin of.
But I also want you all to talk about that one scene which was particularly demanding for you, all of you to pull off as an actor, like challenging and tough. If you had to recollect that one scene from all the episodes.
Not for Jinnah, nothing was tough.
Pressure.
That's a very
pressure.
Arif would walk up and he would become Jinnah and he would slow down his speech. And
Arif was Jinnah throughout 9 months. He did not come out.
No, see, kya hota hai, you asked this question, what is difficult? Everything was difficult. Some scenes could be, there could be no dialogue, but just smoking, like Jinnah smoked.
True.
So the degree of difficulty differs with everything. Maybe a large page of dialogue may not be difficult to say, but a lot of paraphernalia associated with that. आपको physicality क्या करना, how you want to, coughing, ailing, Jinnah's character specifically बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. So everything was challenging. We had scenes in the second, I think it's not in this season, maybe it'll come the next season, where Jinnah was ailing and he was really sick and he was coughing, and then he comes out with his own angst and comes out with his own issue, and then Fatima comes and helps him. So every scene, I think, without being cliche, without sounding very cliched, had its own set of challenges really. And at least me, Gandhi, and we were told to starve to lose weight. So they were all, they were all working. They were all working on full bellies. Me and Chirag, we were
starving.
अरे यार, एक ही बार खाया दिन में, that sort of, because the frailty had to come, and there were thin people. You can't have
generally is a body
the opposite of what the people's perception was and what they actually were.
Correct.
So I think all these factors somehow add on, and every scene becomes easy and challenging at the same time. Really.
खाना खिला दो किसी कोई
We're taking Jinnah out for lunch. She and I, we have decided.
जो 9 महीने स्टाफ किया था अब लंच में
नहीं स्टाफ नहीं मैं खाली बोल रहा हूँ. I mean,
अरे हड्डियाँ दिखनी थी
रिलीज आ रही है लेकिन नाइस फूड
I don't believe in actors romanticizing we were starving. Some actors बोलते बहुत हैं, but you know it's okay. You don't have to make a big shit out of it. But coming to the degree of difficulty you said, or the challenges in every scene, it could be any. It could smoking. Tobacco affecting you, going right down your gullet even for a non-smoker like me. Everything could be challenging. Maybe not saying the dialogues. Large chunks of dialogue. People say, "अरे यार dialogue बहुत है." Maybe dialogue इतना challenging नहीं था जितना ये subtle हर scene में consistently recreate करना. So yeah, I would say trying to be consistent in every scene was the biggest challenge.
Yeah. And Malishka, what was it for you?
I was just going to say mostly people build abs ना for movies today. इनको abs कम करने थे वरना देखिए माशाल्लाह.
Abs थे आप ये बोल.
हाँ मैं वही कह रही हूँ.
But what was the challenge for you?
Everything, like he said. But he's also right. The spaces between what you're saying, I think, is always a bigger challenge than anything else. For me, I have been an actor in my mind forever. But more than that, school, college, it has always been theatre.
Correct.
However, my occupation for the long, it has been, I've been on the mic on the other side, right? And in the past few years, I've got the opportunity to do a couple of films, and one of them was a short film where I had to play a role which was very unlike me. I thought that would be tough. The thing is, when I got an opportunity to play Sarojini, and as we spoke about her, this is one of the things, I said, "Arey, ye to main hu." Then I realized कि ये तो मैं हूँ के चक्कर में it is tougher to play a ये तो मैं हूँ, especially in a historical context because वो आप हैं नहीं. But Sarojini Naidu का किरदार ऐसा था, like she would light up a room जहाँ वो जाती थी. She was very witty. She was and she held her own among men. वो ऐसे she wouldn't let anything slide कि कुछ बोल दिया. She would call out everything like from sexism हो गया, or she spoke her mind, whether it was the design of the flag, whatever that was, through the political scenario. She was in the literary circles. She was the who's who, you know. And slowly, her ideologies, how they changed. She's great friends with Jinnah and how she moves from that to understanding Gandhiji's ideology. So ये जो है ना, हाँ,
traitor.
हाँ, या. तो ये जो एक आँख करना था, while keeping her basic, मतलब है वो
जो personality वो intact
personality है, but she goes through her things, right? When like you're hearing about the partition, for example. That was one of the things, and the second thing is the prosthetics. It was quite a process system. Anyone, if you ask, I think it was. I never imagined. I feel like through doing Freedom at Midnight, I don't know about the rest, but because you know they've done a lot more work in the acting field. But for me, I felt like I've gone through everything. Prosthetics bolo kar liya, धूप में खड़ा, you know those things that you hear actors say.
Malishka, I have a question. Normal तैयार होने में कितना समय लगता है?
आज तो पता चल गया.
नहीं कितना लगता है समय? Normally अगर
ये भी prosthetics.
You know how much time you take to get ready?
Just about an hour. Not too long.
Prosthetic is easier.
I didn't have prosthetics.
You didn't have it.
We tried many things. We tried a nose. We tried many things. Luckily, I didn't have that bit of it. But I think then flip side of that is I agree. I mean, to answer the question very briefly, a lot of what both said was absolutely accurate. I think in a period show specifically, actually just keeping, and also there's no time. You see, in a large production like this. You have to, your preparedness, I always believe this because I come from theatre. So your preparedness, your homework, your whatever happens before you get on set. Right? As an actor, when you roll, you're there. And then you got to be very reactive. It's all, you know, it's free. It's kind of like, you know, what your other actor is giving you. Acting is never in isolation. It is purely reacting and listening, actually.
Basically going with the flow.
Going with the flow, but in the character.
In the character, correct.
But that character has to be worked on. A lot. Before, you see, like it's not you doing it, it's somebody else doing it. So one challenge is doing the somebody else, which is an individual process for every actor. And the challenge there was, I think, that letting go of this pressure or responsibility or this, you know, expectation that oh, historical person hai, is tarike se lagte the, bolte the, ye wo. All that, at least for me as an actor, I don't even look like her. You see, so for me, I had to let go of that very early on in the process. When we decided not to go with prosthetics and do a nose and everything, then for me the challenge was, how do I find the essence of this woman? How do I capture that essence and how do I fulfill that? That's it. It's as simple as that, you see. So for me, it was not the prosthetics that much, but it was the opposite of trying to actually convince people I am this woman, you know. And then as Arif said, keeping up with just the practicality of being in the moment in a production of this scale, being on the ball every single day when you come on set, being present with your fellow actors, you know, bringing your A game, because everyone was bringing their A game. So that is something that it goes without saying. You have to do it. And I think the third thing would be that the challenge of, again, connected to the historical aspect of it, that ultimately you're playing human beings.
Yes.
Okay, they all made decisions, they all had weaknesses, they all had their own failings, you know, so you have to not put them on a pedestal yourself. You have to show the audience who these people were, you know, the humanity of them.
The humanity aspect of any person.
So I think that's important always.
And before we wrap this interview, I want to quickly ask one question, which is that one Bollywood stereotype that you wish you had the liberty to eliminate from the industry?
Bollywood stereotype?
Like a stereotype related to the Hindi film industry.
Bollywood stereotype तो बहुत हैं यार.
If you could just recollect one, and if you had the liberty, you could just eliminate
हर
it.
actor को 4 vanity van मिलते हैं.
नहीं तो ऑन स्क्रीन पूछ रहे हो ना?
On screen, off screen, in general जो होता है, the perceptions that people think about the Hindi film industry.
No, I think the interpretation of villain is a big, that's changed. So I'm happy with that. आज villain थोड़ा सा human दिखाते हैं, थोड़ा सा he doesn't do what cliched जो शायद 25-30 साल conforming to certain stereotype करता था, वो change हो गया है पूरा, which is good. And subtly बहुत सारे changes आए in the writing and the way characters are presented. So I think a little bit of stereotype still remains, but I think it's a work in progress. Slowly it's getting cleansed and we get to see more dimensional characters writing wise, which is good.
Malishka, your thoughts?
I don't want to create a Bollywood stereotype. मैं वहाँ पहुँचूँ कि मैं Bollywood stereotype
बता दो अभी बता दो कौन सा
होती थी ना पहले Bollywood.
But I can tell you this because like I said, I've been on the other side and I have also been part of saying हाँ ये तो है. But the जितनी मेहनत होती है ना acting में, I don't think
people understand.
I also don't think actors speak about it as much. I'm on this side, so I can and I want to because it's a fraternity. I mean, मेहनत तो हर काम में होता है, but जितनी मेहनत एक चीज में लगती है, फिर आप प्रोडक्ट फट करके देख लेते हो, तो आपको ऐसा लगता है कि अरे क्या है, पर उसके पीछे कितना वेट टाइम, कितनी मेहनत, कितना जलना. You know, there was this one scene where the sun was overhead on that. Arif actually goes through these things very easily, but I was like, the sun was overhead, एक पतली चादर between, and it is blazing hot, but that is not what you're playing. There was one scene where we are all draped in kambal, shawl. मतलब the physical difficulty and the mental difficulty, it is all purely amazing when the product comes out, and I think that is what.
Welcome.
Sorry?
Welcome.
Yeah.
But which is the one Bollywood stereotype that you want to eliminate?
Arey yaar, we live in such a patriarchal culture. The female stereotype.
Correct.
Excuse my language, I was about to say something else. But the female stereotype. Thank God it's changing. I mean, we live in a very patriarchal society. Let's call a spade a spade. Why have I chosen this gorgeous, glamorous sari today?
Because it makes you look so good.
Because I feel good in it. Okay? But I'm just saying, why do we have to represent women as beautiful objects of basically objectification of women? Right?
The objectification.
And personally, because I'm educated, I talk a certain way, I come from a certain ethos, a certain class of society and all, I can only play those roles. This is also a very irritating stereotype. I'm an actor. I'm a performer. You are giving me an opportunity to transform myself and give you a character, right? So don't put me in boxes, please.
Well said.
But thank you so much, all of you.